Good afternoon, boys and girls. How are you? Welcome to episode 14 of the Winged Eagle podcast, coming at you on Thanksgiving weekend here in the United States. First and foremost, I hope everybody here in the States listening or watching right now had an excellent and wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We're still technically right in the middle of it here, being Saturday. Most people probably do not get back to their regular lives until Monday. So whatever you're doing and wherever you are, I hope you're having a great one. It's the holiday season now, and as wrestling fans, it's hard enough for everybody to be kind to each other. So we're going to make an effort on this channel to play it cool for the month of December, since that is tomorrow, December 1st. So yes, hello to everyone, one and all. Let me make sure I can be seen and heard over here on my end, because I did not do a sound check. Listening or watching right. We're looking good. Say hello to everybody that's in here in the chat. I was not up here for a Winged Eagle last week because things are a little bit weird with the schedule when we have pay-per-views on Saturdays and stuff, and that's going to affect the Saturday podcast during certain weeks. As a matter of fact, just in a minute here, I'm going to go through my entire schedule for the month of December, and I actually have a Friday Winged Eagle planned this month. Hello to everyone there, Eric and McLean, Ben, Liam, Sam, Luna, How Wheezy, Ungovernable Mystery, Big J, Ian Dunn, Diet Water. Good to see the few of you that are in here right now. Last couple of streams over the past 2 or 3 weeks, numbers have been pretty low, so hopefully we'll bounce back here this week and have a fun podcast. The audio to this will be available on my website for download and on all the podcast sites. A little bit later tonight, I got to head off to work as soon as we're done here, wrapping up, and then I'll be back, 7 or 8 hours from now, and I'll post it online. So there will be a little bit of a delay. I did not do the audio for my Survivor Series review because I actually didn't like it, and I was working on some maintenance on the site anyway, so I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to put that audio up, and my Monday Night Raw review audio did not go up either. So it's just going to be this and pay-per-view reviews and things like that on the podcast sites for those of you who are wondering. In this episode, too, this is basically what we're going to get into here. I'm going to talk a little bit about my schedule because I kind of had an idea after this week when I talked about Raw live on Monday, and I'm going to give something a shot for the month of December. So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Raw, but not a lot, because if you would like to hear my thoughts on Monday Night Raw, I did not do a live reaction this past week. I did a live review instead. The link to that is right in the upper right of the screen there if you want to check that out. So I'm only going to kind of touch on Raw today, and if you want to hear more in detail thoughts on that, you can catch my review from this past Monday. We'll give a review and rundown of NXT and AEW. Unfortunately, the ratings are not out yet for either show because I think it's the holiday, and from what I'm hearing, they're out on Monday. If anybody has seen them, or if they're out early, or if I'm misinformed, hit us with it in the chat here, but from what I understand, ratings will not be out on NXT and AEW until Monday, and I'm really curious to see who won this week because I know who I picked. Stay tuned for that. We're also going to talk about Smackdown last night, which was, Raw was by far the better show of the two this week. Smackdown did not have a whole lot to offer last night, but it did kind of lay some groundwork for TLC, and we're also going to preview that pay-per-view. And I don't think there's any matches officially announced, but I can at least off the top of my head think of about 5 that will be announced. So we'll go through a little bit of that as well. I'll open up here with some wrestling news. We'll talk a little bit about Mauro, Ranallo, and Corey Graves situation. A few other, tidbits of news and information before we get into NXT, AEW, and Smackdown. And before that, I'm going to touch on my schedule. But before we do any of that, I want to shout out all my generous supporters on Patreon, all my current and active patrons right now. Still not a ton of patrons because I am really shitty with this website, but those of you that are on here and support the channel, you keep this ball rolling. You keep these gears moving to cover a lot of these costs and expenses, and I really appreciate all of your support. So I definitely want to say thank you to Barry, MK400, Blake Moran, Brett, Luke Field or Luckfield, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, my friend, Claudio Clavedetcher, Damian Elwell Sr., Jordan Carg, Daniel Rodriguez, John Rediford, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Keith Hammonds, Keith Salyers, Christian Collins, Michael Cuomo, Nathan Walker, Mr. Steve, Steve Myers, and Zach, the Double Z TV. Thank you to all of you who have been most of you longtime supporters. Some of you, a lot of you are well over, $200 in lifetime pledges. So that's incredible. Thank you to everybody that supports this channel in any way, whether it be on Patreon or Super Chats. Couldn't do it without you, basically. And speaking of you guys, here's the deal for December. Let me get back over to my screen here so I can see what I'm doing. here's my schedule for December. I took the time to actually write this down. I wanted to have a good, healthy month of December and really close out 2019 strong. And we're going to cap things off on December 30th with a final big live Q&A bash to send off the year and ring in the new year. And it's actually a Monday. December 30th falls on a Monday, so I was like, perfect. I'll watch Raw, I'll live tweet, come up after Raw, we'll review the show, and we'll hang out and do a nice, big, long Q&A, and I'll spend a few hours with you guys, kind of like we did last year and kind of like we did the year before. So I think December 30th will be a lot of fun, and if you want to kind of jot these down or screenshot this or whatever, I'm going to post right here on the screen if you'll just take a look. Here is my schedule for December, as you see on the 7th, which is next Saturday, another Winged Eagle podcast. On the 9th, I'm going to do either a watch-along, for Monday Night Raw or a review. I'm leaning towards the review. I think during the entire month of December, I'm only going to do Raw reviews because I'm working on some other projects, and the live reactions are burning me out. And the last few weeks, the numbers have been really low. And, also on the podcast, I tend to talk about Monday Night Raw. Well, I talk about that all the way on Saturday. It's like a week ago. I'm thinking for the betterment of the channel and maybe even this podcast, I'm just going to experiment with doing some live Raw reviews on Mondays through the month of December. And that leaves me less to talk about in the Winged Eagle, and we can cover a lot more ground that way. I'm still going to do watch-alongs here or there and live reactions, but I think for the month of December, I'm going to cool my jets a little bit. I've been doing it for like 2 years straight, and the last couple of months of Monday Night Raws, not only have the numbers been down, but the show is extremely hard to watch, and I'm fucking torturing myself. So I'd rather spend a couple of hours with you guys after the show. I won't just be up here for 45 minutes or an hour. We'll spend some time on Monday Night Raw every Monday and hang out and chat a little bit, and I'm going to attempt that for the month of December. On the 10th, the very next day, Tuesday, classic pay-per-view review. This is a pay-per-view review that many of you have requested a lot over the years, and for some reason, I've always thrown it on the back burner. The one thing I will tell you is it's a December-related pay-per-view. The pay-per-view that I'm going to review took place in December, and many of you have been asking for this for a long time, so check that out on December 10th. On December 13th, Friday the 13th, special Winged Eagle podcast, because on the 14th, I've got some plans. I'm not going to be able to be available. Plus, TLC is on Sunday the 15th, and I want to have my predictions up a couple of days ahead of time. So 2 weeks from now, I'll actually be up on Friday, not Saturday. Then on Sunday the 15th, after TLC, immediately following the show, my live TLC review. The next night, I'm going to do a live Raw review, just like I said, for the month of December. Day after that, This Day in History. This one, I believe, is from 1995. I've got two of them coming up. The one on the 16th, the one on the 17th is 1995. On the 21st, 3 weeks from today, another Winged Eagle. And on Sunday the 22nd, the other This Day in History, which I believe was from 1997. Real fun match. Real fun two matches I'm going to talk about. Those This Day in Histories are not on an entire show. They're actually both on one single solitary match that I found entertaining, have a lot of memories of, and they're kind of holiday themed, and I wanted to come up and talk about that. And then, of course, the next day, live Raw review, Saturday the 28th, Winged Eagle podcast, and then on the 30th, Monday night, immediately following Monday Night Raw, I'll be up here with a live Raw review, and we'll do a big year-end mailbag. So basically how this will work, it's going to be a Q&A. If you want to send in your questions to me, you can email them to me at goodmicwork@gmail.com. Send them all over there. As we get closer to the day, I'll put up a post on Twitter to get a few more questions in on social media. And then everybody else that wants to join live, just hit me with them in the chat, and we're going to kind of hang out. I'll probably actually open up a bottle of bubbly. I actually think I will. I'll get some, maybe if I have time to order some. That might be a good idea, actually. I wonder if I have time to get some Jericho bubbly in the house, because Jericho has released his new line of bubbly, as we saw on Dynamite this week. So maybe I can get a bottle of that. It probably sucks. I'm kind of a champagne snob. I'm in the restaurant business, so I know what the good stuff is, and I don't know who's making his stuff or who's slapping his label on. I'll have to research that to see if it's worth drinking, but I might order a bottle of that, and we'll hang out and toast the new year together. So that's going to be a lot of fun on December 30th. So as you can see, there's a lot of videos planned for the month of December, and I'm excited for it. It should be a fun holiday season here on the channel. So that's it for the schedule and the boring stuff. Half of you probably already clicked off this video because you wish I would shut the hell up about that. And now we're done. So now we can get into the wrestling news. Checking out the audience in here. All right, about 100 folks. Not too bad. We're going to do wrestling news first because there's not much of it, and I was really forcing myself to write down things. I was writing down things that maybe I normally wouldn't talk about, but the news primarily probably due to the holidays, was relatively light this week. But I think the biggest kind of behind-the-scenes news story going on currently is the situation involving Mauro Ranallo and what took place with him on NXT TakeOver over the weekend. NXT TakeOver War Games was a fantastic show last Saturday, only a 4-match show, and that's why I love these takeovers so much. They are so freaking entertaining, and this one was no different. Those women, by the way, fucking killed it. Huge props to the ladies of NXT. When it comes to women's firsts, you know, the first Royal Rumble, first Money in the Bank, first Elimination Chamber, first Hell in the Cell, all of the women's firsts that they've done, none of them have come close to this. I think this War Games match blew them away in terms of women's firsts. So props to Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai and Baszler and Candice and all those ladies. They just fucking killed it. Incredibly entertaining match and just loved it. So just wanted to put that out there that I'm incredibly proud of the NXT talent for what they did, especially the women for what they did last Saturday. But the news coming out of that is that during NXT TakeOver, our favorite resident douchebag in the WWE, Corey Graves, finds it necessary to criticize Mauro Ranallo's commentary on Twitter, referencing the fact that he's maybe talking a little bit too much, not allowing Beth Phoenix and Nigel McGuinness, a WWE Hall of Famer and a former Ring of Honor champion, to say a whole lot, which Mauro is the lead commentator. He is expected to take the lead there, you know, and maybe he talks over some people sometimes, but that's what makes him so great almost. You know, he's got a completely different style that we've never seen. What commentators, even Jim Ross at his most excited times, was never jumping out of his fucking chair and shit. The dude has such incredible passion. You know, it's unbelievable. We should be thankful that we have somebody with this amount of passion, you know, and for Corey Graves to criticize one of the best parts and one of the backbones, I think, of NXT's identity. You know, it's not like he directly insulted the guy or anything like that, but why would you even criticize him at all when you know his mental state may be a little bit more fragile than others? Because he's battled depression in his life, he has bipolar disorder, and he's already had one leave of absence from WWE when JBL was fucking with him. And I mentioned this in my episode last week, or in my Survivor Series review, that, you know, I think it's so self-centered for people just to say, oh, Mauro should have thicker skin. You know, just a blanket, basic opinion. He should have thicker skin. He should learn how to handle criticism, shit like that. What you don't understand is not everybody is you. I tend to kind of agree with that in terms of, like, that's what I would do. But, you know, think of this as if this was a family member. You know, I have a family member with bipolar disorder. I don't know anything about that. I'm not a depressed person, don't have bipolar. I don't have any mental problems at all. But I certainly know people who do. And if you love and care about your family members, you know, would you directly insult them, you know, when you know they kind of have a history of this mental stuff? So I think just Corey should have shut his mouth. The pay-per-view was great. Mauro Ranallo was not taking away from the show at all. He was doing his typical Mauro Ranallo overselling job on everything, you know, hugely passionate with every word that comes out of his mouth. And if Corey Graves is annoyed that he talks too much or drops too many rap one-liners, I guess it's his right to tweet that. It's just, if I'm Corey Graves, I'm electing not to be a douche. And I think the fans who get so uppity about this and, oh, Mauro Ranallo should just leave wrestling if he can't handle it, you got to understand the fragile state. You know, if you don't have, you know, it's like me. I don't have, you know, really mental or disorders of any kind, but I certainly want to be sensitive to people who do, and I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one to cause any more future problems between the two. And after Corey Graves sent out those tweets, Mauro Ranallo deleted his Twitter, and he no-showed Survivor Series, or basically, I guess he didn't no-show it, but he told them that he would not be on Survivor Series. And then we had NXT coming up on Wednesday, and we were all wondering, is Mauro going to be on the show? No, he's not. So this is not good. You know, I think Meltzer, and take Meltzer with a grain of salt, but he had mentioned that somebody had told him that Mauro is in rough shape. So you never know what can throw someone back into that rut. You know, Mauro has, you know, been staying positive. He's extremely positive on Twitter. He's almost as positive and passionate on Twitter as he is on his commentary. And he seems to be really battling this as best as he can and staying positive and doing his job. And for someone who has such violent mood swings, apparently, which what bipolar people apparently have, for him to be able to maintain that level of passion and excitement for all of his NXT shows and never be hit with a bad day just shows how truly good he's doing handling these things. So if he's just a little bit more fragile mentally, I think Corey Graves should have been a little bit more respectful of that, and mindful of that. And these asshole fucking fans, that just say, oh, he should be able to handle it. It's not that simple. That's the center of the universe complex that so many people have. Oh, what I feel should be what everybody feels, because everybody should feel what I think and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's just incredibly self-centered and short-sighted and just fucking dumb to just say something that basic. Oh, he just should have thicker skin. No, motherfucker, you need to be more educated, asshole. So anyway, best of luck to Mauro Ranallo. I'm worried as fuck about him because I'm not even like that hateful of Corey Graves. You got people wanting Corey Graves' head on a stick. I think the guy's kind of a dick. I think he's an arrogant douchebag and all of that. I do agree, but I don't think he's like some cancer in the wrestling business. I actually like him on commentary. I really thought he transitioned well. He was given a sympathy job, don't forget. When he got injured, couldn't wrestle anymore, and they did that whole documentary where Triple H offered him a job. He's crying, he's calling his wife. I got a 2-year deal. They're going to give me a chance as an announcer. Corey Graves took that ball and ran the fuck out of it to where he turned himself into having basically a tryout sympathy job for 2 years. Okay, if you suck, you're gone, but we feel bad for you. We're going to employ you for 24 months. He went from that to a guy that I think has a job for life, provided he doesn't go too over the top with his comments. And even though I don't like what he said about Mauro Ranallo, I don't think it was over the top. It's kind of who Corey Graves is. It's kind of in his job description. Ever since he's gotten that After the Bell podcast, every week there's a news story about, oh shit, what did Corey Graves say? So I think WWE understands that he's like that and they actually embrace it. I just think, and Corey Graves saying this about anybody else probably would have gone unnoticed unless he said that about Michael Cole, who's, very powerful in the company and probably could do some damage to Corey Graves, because even though Corey Graves has a very solid spot in the company, Michael Cole eats him on the food chain. You know what I mean? So Corey Graves, like, attacking Mauro was almost like an easy target because he probably knew he could get away with it. But what he didn't know is that Mauro Ranallo might be fragile, and you have now thrown this guy into a fucking downward spiral where he doesn't want to be on TV, and we don't know if we're going to see him back. Thanks, Graves. So that's just all I'm saying there. Corey Graves didn't say anything that over the top. I just think Corey Graves should have used his fucking head. So I'm not canceling him. Even though I'm a liberal guy, I'm not part of that cancel culture shit. I fucking hate it. So I'm not going to cancel Corey Graves. It's not like that. I don't think the guy should be fired. I have fans telling me that. Corey Graves should lose his job. No, he shouldn't. I know he's a douche. Trust me, I know. But let's not be stupid. Let's be realistic about this. Was that a fireable offense? No. It was just something that he shouldn't have done, and it was stupid, and it was insensitive. And now, you've taken a beloved commentator and put him out of action with your words that if you just would have had, 30 seconds of thought into this or anything like that, you might not have done it. Corey Graves attempted to apologize on After the Bell. I listened to his 1.5-minute apology, which sounded more like, I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt, more than an actual apology. And he didn't even mention Mauro Ranallo by name, which I think is done on purpose. WWE doesn't want to draw attention to this. It's like they're stuck in a situation where Graves has to acknowledge it, and they have to acknowledge it, but they don't want to harp on it because they don't want Mauro Ranallo to see his name in the news even more. So when Corey Graves issued that very quick apology, they tried to move right on with the show, and the apology kind of fell flat, and a lot of people were saying, oh, you could have just called him, on the phone. Corey Graves even gave shit to Dave Meltzer for reporting something, called him a liar. And he said, my phone number works, Dave. If you want the truth, just call me. Why didn't you do that to Mauro Ranallo? Why didn't you give Mauro that same courtesy and call him on the phone? Maybe he did. Corey Graves probably did. And then the best part about that is that Rusev, who must be annoyed with Corey Graves, posts Corey Graves' phone number on Twitter, which was just hilarious. I had to retweet that shit. So I don't know. Corey Graves probably has some heat with some of the boys who do love Mauro and do think maybe Corey Graves is out of line or whatever. And it's just the latest, little batch of drama in WWE, which normally I find entertaining. But in this case, you're dealing with something that is a little bit more serious, and I find myself more worried. I'm just worried for Mauro, and I hope he can bounce back here. And I hope maybe what I'm thinking is maybe he takes the holidays off. And WWE's got to be mindful too. I don't know on their end if they're worried about having somebody like this there that could be unreliable, but it doesn't look like Mauro's going away and having these episodes for no reason. It took Corey Graves criticizing him, to set him off to where he didn't want to appear. If he's just doing this shit out of the blue, then yeah, maybe that's going to be a tough guy to have on your live TV show every week when you can't count on him. But provided nobody just insults him, he should be fine. So I'm hoping he takes the holidays off, refocuses, spends time with his family. And in the meantime, I hope everybody lets him know how awesome he is, and how wrestling really wouldn't be the same without him. He's an amazing combat sports play-by-play guy, probably the best in the world right now, just in terms of just the way he puts everything over. So I think take the month of December off, come back in 2020 refreshed, and hopefully Corey Graves will smooch your butthole a little bit and smooth this whole thing over, and we can all move on from it. But in the meantime, just want to wish the best to Mauro Ranallo. Let me go back here before we get into the next piece of news and see if I missed any super chats, or if there's anybody in the chat saying that Mauro Ranallo needs to get thicker skin, like everybody says. Oh, there's a super chat in there from Austin. Kinkle, what's going on, man? Thank you for the $5. Do you think Bray Wyatt will make a puppet out of Brian's beard? We're going to talk about Brian here in a little bit. Also, don't let those reptilians in. I hear you, man. That might be it. And we're going to talk about SmackDown later, but Bray Wyatt kept saying he's going to debut a new face of the Firefly Funhouse, and then we got that weird belt, and then at the end when he came through the ring, we still didn't really get what was promised to us. A lot of fans thought it would be a female. A lot of fans thought it would be Liv Morgan. She's been tweeting some crazy things that have been leading the fans to believe that, but we didn't get any of that. So I think he's going to do something with the hair, and I guess that's just the way of them. Pretty good idea, too. If Daniel Bryan was thinking about changing his look up, I'm glad that they're using the Fiend as a way to do that by, yanking out his hair. Same thing happened to me. Yeah, got a scary dude in a mask, pulled me under a ring, ripped all my hair out. And I even made sure I put a picture up of short-haired Daniel Bryan. He might be returning into the American Dragon Daniel Bryan, or back how he looked in 2010, 2011. I like that look on Bryan. So I like long hair, Jesus Bryan too. But if he's going to just, trim it up, go back to the way he used to, I'll give it a shot. No problem. And it looks like we're getting the Fiend and Daniel Bryan again at TLC, most likely. What's going on to everybody else that's in here saying hello? Some of the new joiners in here. We're going to move on to the next piece of news, which is that I have written down, which is the Matt Hardy Free the Delete videos on YouTube. He has 4 episodes up on his YouTube channel right now, and I watched them all, and I'm trying to figure out if this is just something he's doing for his own entertainment on YouTube, or if this is going to be a return of the Broken Matt character in WWE, or the Woken Matt. Actually, I think they can use the Broken now. Anyway, basically all of the little YouTube videos, and if you haven't seen these, check them out. He's basically, consulting all of his past allies like Senor Benjamin and the dilapidated boat and Vanguard 1, the fucking drone or whatever. And all of the episodes are just goofy as fuck. I think it was the last one, or maybe it was episode 3. It was maybe the second to last one. He did a little spoof on Beyond the Mat, where he goes into his warehouse and one of his friends is working out in the ring. And he says, why don't you get in the ring? And he goes, I'm not booked, Terry. And, spoofing Dennis Stamp from Beyond the Mat, which was really funny. Went on to kick his friend's ass, who was not Terry. And in the latest episode, I guess he was building this reservoir of altering birth or something like that. And in the very end, you see Matt Hardy falling into the reservoir, and so they show him and his helper or whatever going back and forth to the lake of reincarnation with buckets of water, one at a time, filling up this reservoir with this water, and then Matt Hardy dives into it to end the latest episode. So I guess he's trying to be reborn, and the broken character is going to return. He even said in the videos, he goes, I want to return to 2016 when I was the hottest wrestling act in the world, and he was. I still remember it was the summer of 2016, and I was living more near the beach, a little transition place, a little studio I had, and you guys were all telling me, check out this broken character in TNA, check it out, check it out, check it out. So I finally did, and did an entire video on it, and I remember just being bamboozled and just perplexed, and bamboozled's not the right word, but just being befuddled, just not quite sure what I was looking at, and didn't even know what the fuck to make of it. And it was so stupid, it was over. And it became, like Matt said, the hottest act ever. WWE got his hands on him, fucked it up, as is the case with everything when it comes to WWE. But this latest little bit of news here, might be fun. I would love to see them give one more shot, because I think the whole Woken Matt thing was rushed. Well, not rushed, because they brought him back because they couldn't use the gimmick at first. So he came back with the Hardys at WrestleMania, big epic return, which was awesome, and I wouldn't trade that moment for anything. But it took them so long to work out the deal with TNA to get rights to at least sort of use the gimmick that, you know, the bloom was off the rose, so to speak, by that point. So if he's going to get another shot at this is amazing, because I don't think Jeff can be trusted. We haven't seen Matt since Jeff injured his knee, and since that time, Jeff's found himself into a little bit more legal trouble. Doesn't sound like he's quite got a grip on his fucking life yet, and when he does come back, it might not be for a while. Matt Hardy is sitting right there. You know, he's in his mid-40s. He ain't getting any younger, and he's healthy right now, so use him. We saw him this past week on Raw, took a loss to Buddy Murphy, wearing the old, maybe old-school Hardy's gear from like years 2000, 2001 with the cargo pants and the tight shirt and all that. Looked to be in great shape, so I would love to see Broken Matt reappear in WWE and give this one more stab. You know what I mean? And I'm assuming, you know, that's going to be on Raw. It is a shame that he couldn't come into contact with the Fiend somehow. That might be fun for those two to kind of see each other again. But I'm hoping that we see some Broken Matt on TV. I'm willing to give it another shot. I miss it. For some reason, I have written down that there was no CM Punk on WWE Backstage this week. I know Triple H was a guest on the show. I did not see it, and the numbers were down as a result of that. So CM Punk definitely brings those numbers up, which I think when Punk was there, they're somewhere in the 200,000 viewer range, which is not much, but a hell of a lot more than when CM Punk is not on the show. Interesting story, too. This was reported by The Observer first, and a few people have picked up on it, but I guess AEW is being investigated by the Maryland Athletic Commission over the Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega match at Full Gear, because it was violent as fuck. We know that. But when I read the story, this was all triggered by Chris Cruz, former WCW announcer. I haven't even thought of that guy in years. I don't even know what happened to him. And he was the one that contacted the Athletic Commission to ask them if they had any issues with the match. And, you know, it's written in the laws there that no, there cannot be any deliberate blading or laceration of yourself or another opponent, which did not happen there. Those guys got lacerated by falling through glass. They weren't blading, basically. I think it was more of like a no blading type of rule that they're worried about. But anyway, when contacted and asked about this, they said they couldn't comment on it because they were investigating the match. So that fucking sucks. I mean, I know that match was a bit extreme, but I don't want to see AEW hit a roadblock this early, so hopefully whatever that is doesn't result in anything too bad. I mean, if it does, it's probably just going to be a fine or something, but that's kind of weird. And yeah, I guess that's the type of stuff you have to worry about. You know, back in the day, WWE and ECW, they could just bleed buckets in any state, it seemed like. You know, and now that times have changed so much and there's different regulations, I guess even wrestling shows have to be careful about how much blood they spill, depending on what state they're in. So I hope everything is cool there with AEW, and there's no, you know, long-term repercussions of that. Some interesting news as well, speaking of AEW, some trademark issues. Now, apparently Cody Rhodes went on a trademark spree recently and got the rights to a lot of old WCW trademarks, including Slamboree, Super Brawl, which I like both of those. That's awesome. Slamboree and Super Brawl, the WWE has never done anything with. And Bash at the Beach. Now, Bash at the Beach is going to be in conjunction with the Jericho Cruise that I'll be attending next month in January, or almost 2 months from now, in January. And that's going to be like 2 shows, a Dynamite show in Miami and then some shows on the ship. And the entire like 9-day event is going to be called Bash at the Beach, since Cody Rhodes got the rights to the trademark. Well, Cody also trademarked, like I said, Slamboree and Super Brawl, and WWE then trademarked a bunch of shit as well. Crown Jewel, Barely Legal, Cyber Sunday, and War Games. Apparently, they had just recently gotten the rights to War Games, purchasing them from MLW. I didn't even know MLW owned the rights to War Games, so I had no idea about that story at all until I was reading about all this. But anyway, there has been a little bit of talk that maybe the Bash at the Beach trademark could be challenged by WWE. I really hope not. You know, I mean, not only because it's selfish reasons, I'm going to be there. I really want to have fun there. I don't want to see anything like happen to the name or whatever. All they can do is rename it. It wouldn't be a big deal. But if WWE is just doing this to fuck with Cody and take him to court just to prolong something that he might even win, or maybe even take the trademark away from him, I would really hate to see them do that. Because if they did, it would be 100% out of spite to do that to Cody Rhodes. Because they have no use for these fucking names at all. They'll never do a Bash at the Beach. They did a Great American Bash, but I don't see them at this point in 2019 doing a Slamboree. Fans have no idea what the fuck Slamboree is, and Super Brawl is kind of like the same thing. So those were two, smaller WCW pay-per-views that WWE never picked up and put on their calendar after the buyout. There's no reason for them to want to keep these. And WWE has done Bash, Great American Bash before. Maybe they're worried there's going to be some confusion. There won't be, So WWE, leave them alone and let them keep these trademarks. It would be so silly for them to try to cock block them here, if they even have, legal grounds to stand on. I don't know. But you've never used Slamboree and Super Brawl, so why own the rights to them just to bury it? If Cody Rhodes wants to bring back a pay-per-view concept or two that his dad was a very big part of, and that his brother wrestled on a lot. Dustin Rhodes wrestled on some Slamborees and Super Brawls in his life. It would be nice to bring those back. So I hope that they're able to, and I would like to see those resurrected, in AEW someday. So I'm kind of rooting for Cody there. Whatever comes out in the legal proceedings there, I hope it doesn't cause any more issues, and I hope the Bash at the Beach is able to be called Bash at the Beach, because it's going to be fun. I am fucking stoked. I'm literally starting to get giddy with excitement for the Jericho Cruise, because it's creeping up. I mentioned also this past week on Monday, I mentioned the Broken Skull sessions with The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I finally got a chance to watch all of that on the WWE Network. I highly recommend it. Pretty amazing stories, and just cool to see The Undertaker in that type of character. And I mentioned that it's kind of cool to see him being more of himself, being more of a person, because we've all been wondering when the day finally comes for him to go in the Hall of Fame, what it's going to be like. He's only made one Hall of Fame appearance in his life, and that was for Paul Bearer. He's never been shown in the crowd, nothing like that. He's always maintained that gimmick. So when he did go into the Hall of Fame, we're like, is he going to come out with a suit and talk like a person, or is he going to come out in full-on dead man gear and say rest in peace and all of that? Now the fact that he's starting to do these type of shows, now on the WWE Network, no less. He's done a few interviews in the recent year or two, out of character like this, but now for him to be directly on the WWE Network could be a sign of things to come. And I've been saying for the past few months, even did a whole video on it. Next year, November 22nd, 2020, is on a Sunday. That is the exact 30th anniversary of his debut at the Survivor Series on November 22nd, 1990. So I think it would be really cool if we can make it one more year to get to an Undertaker retirement next year at Survivor Series. But in the meantime, and speaking of the WWE Network, have y'all seen the Sting Untold documentary? It's pretty short on the network. It basically chronicles his return to the company, coming back at the Survivor Series that year, and the match with Seth that got him injured and kind of ended his career. They went through that whole deal, showed things from Seth Rollins' perspective as well, which is really cool. You could really see that, that was rough on Seth to, have that weighing on his conscience kind of thing. But the whole documentary was great, really well done. Nice to see, Sting talk about his final run in the WWE like that. And then it ends super suspiciously. He starts talking about The Undertaker. And he even speculates, he's like, could I get in the ring and, and do a stare down or do something? And he's like, I think I could. And he goes, if there's one big regret I had in wrestling is we never got that confrontation. And when he's talking, they're doing nothing but showing Sting and Undertaker cropped together face-to-face shit. And I'm just like, that's weird. And then the doc ends. And I'm like, man, could we really get that match literally 68 years too late? If you're talking 1997, I will pay $5,000 for a ringside ticket to that. Honest to God. If it's 1997. 22 years too late, however, I've been maintaining that I just simply don't want to see it. I've been maintaining that there's no way we will see it. I've been completely putting it out of my mind. I'm like, no, WWE wouldn't do that. The match would suck. Look at what happened with Undertaker and Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. You think Undertaker and Sting would be any better? These guys are both pushing 60. Maybe one of them is 60. No way. There's just no way that match can be any good. But why would they touch on that? Why would they touch on that at the end of a documentary, at the end of the year with WrestleMania right around the corner? And forget WrestleMania. What about Saudi Arabia? What if Sting can put something together and have one final match and get that big time payday, Undertaker and Sting in Saudi Arabia, that would fucking suck. If we are going to get the Undertaker and Sting finally all these years too late in a match that is going to be horrible, why would you want a repeat of the Undertaker and Goldberg? I just can't see Undertaker and Sting being any better. And it would ruin the idea of the two of them together. But if you put it at WrestleMania, that would be better for the fans, just to be able to see that epic confrontation. So I'm hoping if they do something like that, it will be at WrestleMania. And maybe it's a tag match. You know, one-on-one might be impossible, but if it's a tag, who are these guys going to tag with? Just random dudes? Is the Undertaker going to get a young guy and Sting's going to get a young guy and they can do the majority of the work? Or what? Or maybe this isn't even going to happen, but when I saw the ending of that documentary, I'm like, why would they do that? Why would they tease the fans one last time just to not go through with it? So I'm kind of thinking, and you guys watch it. Go on the network when you're done watching this. You watch it and you tell me what you think of that ending and what you think it means. It might mean nothing at all. But from my eyes and my perspective, sitting on my couch watching it the other night, I was like, you know, I know it's going to suck. You guys don't have to tell me that the match is going to suck. I know that. I'm not fucking stupid. But I want to know if you think it was really going to happen. It doesn't matter if you think it should. Forget if you think it should. That's beyond the point. I'm with you guys. I don't think it should happen. I think it would suck. My question to you is, do you think it will? Do you think it will anyway? You know, because if Goldberg and Undertaker can wrestle, why can't Sting and Undertaker? You know, the match cannot be any better. But with Saudi Arabia coming up right after WrestleMania, I really hope if they do Sting and Taker is WrestleMania. That's WrestleMania. That's the type of match, the attraction match you book for WrestleMania. But all the Saudi Arabia shit makes us so nervous because sometimes they can save the big returns for that. I still think Edge is going to return at some point, possibly in the Royal Rumble. And I was really worried that Edge would have a match at Crown Jewel. So if we get an Edge return, it's possible at WrestleMania we could have a CM Punk match, an Edge match, and a Sting and Undertaker match. That is possible. Or they could split those up, do one or two of them in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. But go watch that documentary. Tell me what you think. Before I move into Monday Night Raw here, let me go up here and answer a couple of more super chats. And I apologize if I do miss any. I will catch them later when I'm putting up the audio tonight. And if I missed a super chat from you, I'll go over to your YouTube channel and I will leave a comment on it. That's usually what I do when I miss them. But I don't think I missed any, except for Michael. Good to see you back in here again. Another awesome Patreon supporter. Thank you for the $5. MLW owns War Games. Yes, I was made aware of that, but I wasn't aware of that prior to a couple of days ago. They actually had a War Games match recently, that also including the top cage, just like it was originally. You know what? I did know that. I did know that MLW has done some War Games, and I do know they had the top on it. But I guess I wasn't aware of the story as to how they got the trademark. It must have just been untrademarked, and they scooped it up, which apparently was what Cody Rhodes did. And there was some sort of tweet, and I don't have a source here. There was some sort of a tweet where someone was quoted as saying, Cody told me he was up with Conrad all night trademarking stuff. So Cody, Conrad, he's in bed with AEW, whether he says it or not. I know he's tight with all those guys. He's ringside for a lot of their shows. He'll be on the Jericho Cruise as well. And he has every right to do that. So I don't know why the fans get on his case, but I think he kind of denies it sometimes, but that's pretty funny of him and Cody Rhodes. Were up spending the night together, trademarking shit for fun on the internet. But I'm kind of glad they did, because I'm glad. I would rather have Cody Rhodes own Bash, Slamboree, and Fall Brawl over WWE. WWE's never done anything with those names or anything. So anyway, let's move into Monday Night Raw. Check our audience in here. All right. Yeah. See what I mean about these numbers? Like, low audience. My God, we usually have 300 or 400 people in here. What the fuck's going on? Anyway, those of you who are here, do me a favor. Smash that thumbs up for me. Let's try to get me up to like 100 likes before I go off. Before I sign off here at the end of this. And now we're going to get into Monday Night Raw. Like I said, check out my Raw review from this past Monday if you want to hear me elaborate more on what took place on Raw. I just want to talk about the key parts here. Seth Rollins appears to maybe be making the transition into a heel turn. He had the big promo, the big, like locker room address to open Raw. The entire locker room is on the outside of the ring, and Seth's in the ring as the leader, basically placing blame on everybody else for Raw's horrendous performance at Survivor Series, a stark contrast from the previous year, only winning one match, and that was a kickoff match. They got their asses handed to them by Raw and SmackDown. Seth's pissed, blaming everybody else, coming off very heelish, but kind of masking his heelness behind the, oh, I just want what's best for the brand. I love every man and woman in that locker room. And I just, I basically giving them tough love, I suppose. And you see all the talent one at a time start to leave. So they're just walking away from Seth Rollins, including the AOP, who was at ringside. They leave. Everybody leaves except for Kevin Owens. The two of them have a confrontation in the ring. Seth's cutting a promo on Owens, a very passionate promo, which I think Owens is just 10 times better than Rollins on the mic. Rollins doesn't come off that well sometimes as the angry guy, but I would still much rather prefer him as a heel than a babyface, because what I'm seeing with Rollins is he's starting to turn into that type of heel that really believes what he's saying, and those make the best heels, right? He really believes that, he's the leader, and, he really just wants what's best, and, all that stuff, yada, yada, right? So that actually can work, I think, in the long run, but this here just looked a little odd. Anyway, Owens hits Seth Rollins with a stunner. That would set up the main event, Owens versus Seth Rollins, and we had seen the Authors of Pain not only in the opening segment, but they also had a squash match against Hawkins and Ryder. And if you noticed, in that match, they were shirtless. They were without their gear. They're like riot-looking gear, and that was suspicious to me, and I even had a speculation about that when we would get to the main event. So AOP squash Hawkins and Ryder. We get to the main event, Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens. Pretty good match. That's clearly probably going to be a TLC match, if I had to guess. And right after Kevin Owens hits a stunner on Seth, the AOP hit the ring. They come in the ring, they attack Kevin Owens, beat the shit out of him, but they leave Seth Rollins completely alone. So basically, they might be subscribing to what Seth Rollins is saying, and there's now some talk that Seth can have some big guys backing him up. And if you remember, when Authors of Pain first hit the main roster, a lot of us were pitching this for Roman. A lot of us were saying, Roman is so hated by the audience, WWE should turn him heel, and he should form a new Shield where he's the leader, and they already dress like him anyway. And they all match, Roman Reigns and the Authors of Pain, right? Well, now, when Authors of Pain showed up with no shirts on and no gear on, and they dropped the riot gear, I'm like, well, now that makes more sense, because they actually, wearing that, they look like someone that would match Roman Reigns. Very similar ring attire between the three of those guys. So if they're forming a faction with Seth, and he doesn't wear the riot gear anymore, he might have to have two guys with him that, I don't know, resemble his appearance a little bit more. I know that's looking way into it, but I firmly believe the reason they dropped the riot gear is to stop the comparisons to Roman Reigns, especially if they're going to be a heel in a stable with Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins looks like he's making that slow transition into a heel. AOP did not attack him on Raw. Maybe it turns out they attack him next week. I don't know. But from the way it looks now, I think Seth Rollins should go heel and should have these two guys backing him up. And if he does wind up having a match with Kevin Owens at TLC, could be a tables match, could be a TLC match, probably will be a TLC match. Authors of Pain can be in there to help Seth win. And maybe Kevin Owens can be on to bigger and better things in 2020. You can have him lose here to Seth with a lot of help from Seth's new backup. Doesn't diminish Owens any, because it took three guys to beat him. Put Seth back on a winning track with a new persona, or a new attitude anyway. And both guys can have big 2020s. That's what I'm hoping, because we did speculate a lot, and I invite you to go back to my Raw review this past Monday and listen to the beginning when we did a shit ton of Royal Rumble and WrestleMania speculation. We're thinking that, if the path right now is for Roman Reigns on Smackdown to go into WrestleMania to face The Fiend, which is probably going to happen at this point, that ain't going to make the fans too happy. So at least on the other side of things, let's have something fun with Brock. Assuming Brock's not going to work TLC. I don't think he is, but he might. If Brock takes TLC off, he's probably going to hold the belt until WrestleMania at this point, which gives you the opportunity to put somebody else over huge. And that person can win the Royal Rumble. It could be a Drew McIntyre. It could be a Kevin Owens. It could be a Keith Lee. It could be a Matt Riddle. It could be a lot of guys. You have a chance here, again, with Brock being champion, to launch somebody huge at WrestleMania. We don't have to worry about launching Adam Cole, because he's already been launched into fucking orbit, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. The other interesting stuff on Raw was the Rusev and Lashley segment. This suddenly got good right out of the blue, because Rusev got nuts. And I like crazy Rusev. Lashley's in the ring having a match with Titus O'Neil, I think. Rusev comes in to attack. They showed footage earlier on in the day of him getting served with a restraining order. So he attacks Lashley, attacks him on the stage. He's violating the restraining order, so the cops and security show up. They handcuff him. He breaks away from them, and with the hands cuffed behind him, he shoulder tackles Bobby Lashley, who falls off the stage, landing through a table or a crash pad or something. Rusev's got this crazy-ass look on his face. He even kicks over one of the towers, the big metal support beams or whatever, on top of Lashley. He's carried away on a stretcher. Lana's freaking out with some of the worst acting I've ever seen. I think based on the acting that I see from Lana and Bayley, I think that every wrestler should be required to take 3 hours of theater in high school, or 3 years of theater in high school, at least, because just very basic acting lessons would drastically help some of these ladies and men in the WWE. But I did like that segment better than any other love triangle segment they've done so far. The restaurant thing was fucking dumb. The pregnancy angle was even fucking dumber. This whole thing has been a big pile of dog shit to me, but it got good last Monday. I actually enjoyed it, and maybe it's going to turn the corner, and these type of angles sometimes tend to do that. They're like so bad it's good, or they're so bad, so goofy, so silly that they wind up just turning into something that's entertaining. And I got to put all of the credit on Rusev, because Lashley and Lana have the combined charisma of a bowl of fucking oatmeal. And Rusev is carrying all the weight here, and he's doing an amazing job. And Rusev for president, basically, is all I'm saying. Also, big news on Monday Night Raw, brand new United States champion Rey Mysterio bouncing back huge after his loss to Brock Lesnar in a very good match at Survivor Series. He wound up finding himself in a fatal four-way match that was set up in a big promo. Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, and Orton, and Rey Mysterio wrestled in a fatal four-way. Rey wins, earns the opportunity to face AJ Styles right there for the U.S. title, because prior to the match, Humberto Carrillo, who initially got the title shot, was attacked. Rey Mysterio wins the fatal four-way, replaces Humberto Carrillo, and has a just beautiful fucking match with AJ Styles. Goddamn, this was good. Raw was good. Raw was a really good show this past Monday. I enjoyed it, and I especially enjoyed this match just because of the sheer star power, the names in that ring. You got Rey Mysterio. I was about to say Rey Mysterio Jr. Rey Mysterio, 30-year veteran. AJ Styles, 21 or 22-year veteran. Both guys in their mid-40s. Both guys are the very same exact age that Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan were during the time of the Billionaire Skit segments on Raw. That's how old these guys are in their wrestling at the level they are is fucking phenomenal. 2 first ballot Hall of Famers, 2 pros. It don't get any better than Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles. Even at this stage of their career, think if these guys were working in 2004 or 5 or 2 or 3. Think about how good those matches would be. For them to be wrestling at this stage in their careers and having a good match together and an entertaining match just lit my heart up with joy. Rey got the victory, huge victory, beating AJ Styles. Great moment with Dominic at the end of the match coming in to celebrate. The only thing I found weird was Dominic. I don't think somebody should lift their father on their shoulders. It just looks so weird to me. And I was a little bit wondering if Dominic was going to turn. I mentioned that on Monday, because with Rey on his shoulders, he could have dumped him back like the Randy Orton and Batista Evolution segment when Triple H did the thumbs down. But like I said, Dominic would not make a believable heel. There's not a single person in this world that would believe this kid hates his dad based on what we've seen from him on the mic. And when WWE's made the mistake of giving him the stick, he can't. He's horrible. So he'd have to have somebody talking for him, like a Paul Heyman, like a Samoa Joe, and that just wasn't going to happen on Monday. So Rey Mysterio is your new U.S. champion, hopefully this time, because I think when he held the belt a few months back, he got injured. Hopefully he can have a nice long run here and do some fun things. And I know there's been talk of his contract being up as well. And if Dominic has been training to be a wrestler and has aspirations to be a wrestler, I think it's best for the Mysterio family to stay put in WWE, where Rey has the Performance Center and all that great Hall of Fame talent coaches down there at his disposal. So glad Rey won. That was just an exciting fucking match. And I'm curious now who will move on to. Probably Andrade. That's who I'd vote for. You might get a rematch with AJ first, but AJ's going to move on to a match with Randy Orton now, which is funny too, because when AJ was talking about beating Randy Orton at WrestleMania, that has been deleted from my memory. I completely forgot that Randy Orton and AJ Styles wrestled at WrestleMania. Don't even remember the match. Don't even remember what happened. AJ won apparently, but yeah, that's just how jumbled wrestling gets in my head. Wasn't even aware of that. Thought it was pretty funny. So anyway, they're going to rekindle their feud, and that should probably also be a TLC match, or maybe even a match on TV. Let's move on to AEW, because there was a few good things on this show, but so far in the war, I predicted, I think, AEW to win. Not predicted. I picked AEW as the better show, like the first 6 episodes or something like that. And NXT has been making a comeback. So stay tuned here in a minute to find out if I picked them again or not. But the best part, easily, by a mile, on AEW was the opening segment. So much going on. It was almost like a This Is Your Life type of segment. The show opened up. It's the thank you, or the Jericho thank you celebration, I think it was. And you got all these big inflatable mascots out there. You got the ring decked out in all these bright colors. There's a big box, which you knew somebody was in the box. There's like cheerleaders and marching bands and all sorts of fucking shit and spaceships. And it really looked over the top, something that WWE would do. It looked like a This Is Your Life segment or a New Day segment or something like that. It really did. But man, was this fun. It was all over the place, this segment. It was emceed by Virgil, first of all, Soul Train Jones. And Virgil goes way back with the Rhodeses as well. As a matter of fact, Virgil turned babyface and turned against the $1 Million Man in a tag team match against Dusty and Dustin at the Royal Rumble back in 1991. But Soul Train Jones is out there to MC the thing. He introduced Jericho, who comes out. He's in the middle of all of this wacky shit in the ring. He's even got a bottle of his own personal bubbly, which I mentioned earlier. I'm going to try to get a bottle of that and drink it on the December 30th live stream. So he's got his own bubbly, and he's just showered with gifts. He's got the entire inner circle out there with him. Sammy Guevara, who is just amazing, gifts Jericho a giant cardboard cutout of the two of them hugging. I included that in the thumbnail because it was so fucking awesome. Jake Hager. Well, actually, before Jake Hager comes out, Sammy gives him the cutout, and Proud and Powerful give him a gift basket, a lovely gift basket. Not sure if it was Hickory Farms or what. And they also make him an honorary Boricua. Put a bandana on his head. He's so lucky. I want to be an honorary Boricua. I'm jealous of Jericho. So he's out there looking like a badass with the bubbly and the bandana and the gift basket and the goat. And that's when he gets the goat from Jake Hager, who walks out there with a fucking goat who wants nothing to do with it. So Hager's not in the ring. He actually comes out like kind of on the side entrance there, because they don't want to have that fucking goat in the ring, and the goat ain't having it. Hager's laughing. Hager, this is like the second or third week in a row you have not been able to hold in your grinning. He's like Jimmy Fallon on SNL. He just cannot stop laughing because this whole fucking faction is so silly and so fucking entertaining. So he brings him out a goat. So Jericho gets a goat. And one thing I will say about AEW and animals, they don't mix. Fucking Cody Rhodes' dog, bringing him out there with a pyro, that was fucking stupid. I even think, didn't the horse that Adam Page rode out on die or something? So I just don't think animals and AEW should mix at all. That goat did not want to be there. So now it's time for more presents. Jericho knows that something is in that box, and he wants to know what. I'm assuming the whole time I'm watching this that somebody is going to be in one of the mascot costumes or in the box and attack Jericho. 100%, right? So I'm waiting for that to happen, and now it's time to open up the big box, and they do, and it turns out to be not an enemy, but Jericho's dad, his very own dad, Ted Irvine, or Irvin, who will also be on the cruise in January. I'll get a chance to meet him. He comes out there, and he's wearing his New York Rangers jersey because he did used to play in the NHL, and they're in Chicago, so he's healing on the Chicago crowd, shitting all over him, even passing out custom Rangers jerseys to all the members of the Inner Circle. Fucking great. Even Jericho's dad was good at being a heel. Jericho brings in Justin Roberts to read some sort of a letter to the audience, and he doesn't like the way he's doing it. So then the entire Inner Circle starts beating up Justin Roberts. And I was saying it right here on my couch, and I'm like, somebody needs to choke him with his tie. Somebody needs to choke him with his tie. I cannot believe they missed that opportunity to do that. They had him down face first on the mat, on his stomach. They could have just grabbed the tie and fucking cinched up, just like Daniel Bryan, that caused him to get let go from the WWE way back in 2010, right when I started doing a few YouTube videos here and there, was when all that shit was going on. And I think they missed a big opportunity there to choke out Justin Roberts, to make a little light of that whole situation back in the day. Overall, it was a really fun segment. I don't even think it went that over the top. Even at the end, when it turned out that SCU was in disguises and they came out there and attacked and everything, that didn't even, to me, overdo it. I just thought the whole thing was so fun. And Jericho, one thing I will say about AEW attempting to do these big, over-the-top, crazy fun segments, I don't know if you could really get away with it with anyone other than Jericho, because he has so much experience in this. He's got so much experience in WWE, and this type of goofy-ass production, it reminds me of the Festival of Friendship with Kevin Owens and how great that was, with the presents and the hat and the portrait, and then Jericho opens up his gift and he's like, it's a brand new list. And then he looks at it and he goes, my name is on it. And just the way it all hit the crowd at one time, like, oh, fuck. Jericho probably is the best person to have right smack dab in the middle of something like this. If Jericho was not involved and you're trying to do this type of segment with a bunch of, 3 or 4 or 5 year veterans, all, AEW talent, I don't know if you can pull it off this well. It's got to be Jericho. He really is fucking phenomenal. He's amazing. So anyway, that segment right there made the entire show. I didn't care what I saw after this. To me, AEW was already going to get a good grade for me based on this segment alone, because it was fucking entertaining, and it's exactly what professional wrestling is about. It's exactly what AEW should be doing, trying to entertain us, and they entertain the shit out of me in that segment. As far as the matches go, okay, not the greatest matches this week. There was a lot of kind of clunky, weird stuff too about AEW that I did think they were going to experience some of these type of growing pains at some point, because I think some of the things they have done haven't made a ton of sense. And that's just all part of, being a first-time wrestling company. You're allowed, AEW, they're allowed to make mistakes in my book. I laugh so hard at the people that, rip them apart on Twitter. Oh, did you see that botch? Or this or that? Cool it, dudes. They're a brand new company. They're 6 months old, and they're already on cable television. They're allowed to trip over themselves a couple of times. It's okay. Look at what WWE has, a 60-year head start on them, and they don't know which way's fucking up. So if AEW has a bad week or here, there, they're allowed to do that, in my book. You know what I mean? I'm not going to condemn them for that, but I will acknowledge when the show is not as good as NXT. The Best Friends with a turkey, Orange Cassidy, dressed up as a giant turkey for Thanksgiving, because this did air the day before, took on the Lucha Brothers and beat them in a huge upset. Wasn't expecting Best Friends to win. I think Trent Beretta got the pin there with the package power bomb. What the fuck is that little move? The crunch, I think he calls it, or whatever. They had some dude named Marco Martinez on commentary for this match, who you couldn't hear at all. I don't know who he was. I don't even know what he was doing, what he's a part of, and what the significance of him being there was. You couldn't hear him. He was mumbly as fuck. I was worried that he was there for the rest of the show, but he just sat in for this match only, and JR and Excalibur dismissed him when it was over. Never bring that guy back. John Moxley had a backstage promo where, now that he's kind of done with Kenny Omega, he kind of needs something else to do. So he issues another open challenge for next week. And over the weekend, and I don't remember who it was for. I think it was a Jersey promotion, but Joey Janela made an appearance for them and accepted John Moxley's challenge on the indie show. So Moxley and Janela is now set for next week's Dynamite. They have wrestled before, and it was really good when they did. So that should be a pretty fun match. There was also something going on internally with Janela and AEW. Janela might have been working us, but he did tweet out something about his displeasure or something he was pissed off about. Saying that he's not going to Dynamite this week. He's not going to be there. And he was kind of mad, but that might have all been part of the storyline. He now has accepted Moxley's challenge, and it'll be the two of them next week on Dynamite. This next segment was really bad. Cody Rhodes is back in action here. He took on Matt Nix, beat him in what essentially was a squash. And after the match, he got on the mic, talked shit to MJF, because that's, the big feud now going forward. Basically calls out MJF when the ring starts opening up from behind him, and you had a guy jump out, And you had Excalibur going, "It's the Blade. It's the Blade, guys. The Blade." Can you believe that? He came through the ring, jumped out, and attacked Cody Rhodes. And then after the Blade came out, the Butcher came out. The Butcher. Yes, the Butcher. So sweet. He's finally there. So the Butcher came out of the hole. And then a third person comes out of the hole, Allie, who apparently is a heel now, who I think she was the one that got her hair cut a few weeks ago. So the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny is what they're calling Allie are all here. And if you were watching this on Wednesday like I was, I know what you're asking yourself. Hey, Greg, who the fuck are the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny? I don't know. Don't know who the fuck they are, except for Allie. Now, the only thing I do know about Allie is I think she's the one that got her hair cut off by Brandy and Karma, so maybe Allie is targeting Brandy's husband. That's the only thing I can put together there. But what sucks about AEW's commentary, and I know poor Jim Ross is getting a lot of shit lately on social media, which I love Jim Ross. I don't want him to go anywhere, and I think he should say fuck off to all the naysayers. However, the commentators did zero to let us know who these guys were. One of them has been in NXT before, but I've never heard of them. Don't know who any of them are. Now, they are, I guess, prominent indie guys, and they're and some people who follow independent wrestling certainly know who they are, but the crowd sure as fuck didn't know who they are, and it reminded me a lot. What pay-per-view was it? Was it the pay-per-view? I think it was All Out when Dark Order debuted. And it was like the same thing. It was like the lights went out and then the lights came back on and nobody knew who the fuck they were. And Excalibur's going, "It's the Dark Order," or whatever. He's like marking out, but nobody knew. And he did the same thing here. They did nothing to explain why they were there, who they were, where they came from, why it's significant that they're attacking Cody Rhodes. The announcers basically might as well not have been there because they did zero to tell the story. And so far, every time AEW, this is one critique I have of them, every time they've done one of these like surprises or they do one of those lights go out things, it sucks. The Dark Order, the Blade, the Butcher, and the Bunny, even Cody, when the lights went out and it was Cody that one time, and the lights went out and it was Daniels that one time, which Daniels, that was awesome. He was dressed up as Pentagon and all of that, but you know, it wasn't like a holy shit jaw drop moment like AEW thinks in their head that it is, you know, with the lights going out and they're expecting this big response. And same thing here too. I'm fine with, you know, debuting some new talent and having them attack a major player. Sure. But do something, at least on commentary, to inform us a little bit about who these guys are, or at least give us some sort of an idea as to why they're doing what they're doing. Instead, it left the audience and the crowd confused, the audience at home confused. Nobody knew who the fuck they were or what it even means for the future, and I still don't. So I thought that segment was terrible. Kenny Omega had an all-out rematch with Pac in the same building. They were in the Sears Center on Wednesday for Dynamite. Great match, as expected. I wasn't expecting it not to be. Kind of a quick pin situation there where Omega kind of countered a crucifix, and that kind of gives Pac a second loss now in a short amount of time. He was undefeated there for a brief stint and was looking really strong, and I thought was going to be one of the top contenders in the company. Now he's dropped down a little bit, and Omega, who was also on a losing streak, seems to be back on his winning ways. And I don't know, I'm ready for Omega to kind of turn heel as well. We had this weird diamond ring match, which I don't even know what the fuck it is. They had a battle royal last week that I think Paige and MJF were the final two. So they were going to work on Dynamite for the diamond ring. MJF wins with help from his brand new muscle, Wardlow, who debuted last week. So that was a match you kind of had to give MJF. You know, he just turned on Cody. He's about to start this big angle with him. He now has some heat, you know, some extra heat behind him in this big form of a bodyguard. So he needed to win this, and you kind of knew that he would. DDP was on hand. He was supposed to present the diamond ring to the winner. Cuts a little bit of a promo on MJF. They trade some barbs, and DDP even threatens to kick his ass. He goes, "This 60-year-old guy's going to kick your ass." You know, Wardlow kind of steps in. They do a pull apart, and that's the end of that. So now you've got MJF, who just turned on Cody. He's got that sweet scarf. He's now got the diamond ring, and he's got Big Daddy Cool Diesel with him, putting together a nice little package there for MJF. He's not amazing in the ring. I will say that. His match with Paige wasn't bad. I don't think he does Cody's finisher as well as Cody does. There are a few things in the ring that I still think he needs some work on, but a guy like him does not need to be Chris Benoit in the ring. You know, he just needs to be himself. He is so charismatic and such a good heel in so many other ways. I think he's one of the guys that can afford not to be amazing in the ring. You know, The Miz is kind of like that. The Miz is not bad in the ring, but he ain't Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels either, not even close, and he wasn't even as good as his tag team partner John Morrison back in the day, but Miz makes up for it in his amazing mic ability and his charisma and his ability to be a heel. And MJF is a lot like that, and sky's the limit for that dude, man. And he's only going to get better. Guys who aren't really good in the ring now, even The Rock wasn't that good. Rock improved leaps and bounds from 1996 to like the year 2000. By the time we got to 2000, 2001, I thought The Rock was a fucking stud in the ring and could do it all. We had Dustin Rhodes cutting a promo on Jake Hager. That's probably going to be your next match, either on TV or their pay-per-view, which I don't even know when the next one is. We had Sammy Guevara and Proud and Powerful attacking him. He was then saved by the Young Bucks, and they did announce a 6-man tag set for next week's Dynamite. That should be pretty fun. And in the main event, Chris Jericho was defending the AEW title against Scorpio Sky, who got a pinfall victory over Jericho the week before. You knew this was just going to be a nice big tune-up for Jericho. It was good, but Jericho is really looking his age. Scorpio Sky, however, put on a really good showing, sold for Jericho well, made Jericho look good. Jericho tapped him out in the end with the Lion Tamer. Jericho, I don't know how much longer he's going to hold on to the belt because he's got a match at Wrestle Kingdom against Tanahashi as well, and it's going to be really interesting to see if he takes the AEW title into Japan with him. I don't think that he will, but he's got a lot on his plate, so I just don't know how much longer this old man can hold the title. And after SCU and Jake Hager and everybody get involved, you had Jon Moxley appearing in the crowd, and he has a little stare down with Jericho. So they're pulling the trigger on Moxley a little bit sooner than I thought. It looks like Moxley and Jericho is going to be your next program. And I actually thought that Moxley might face whoever beats Jericho kind of thing, but I think Moxley is going to be a pretty hard babyface in this situation. And maybe take Jericho down. If they're going to go through with the Moxley and Jericho feud right now, I think Moxley wins in the end. Maybe it's a series of matches. Maybe the first match Jericho retains and Moxley wins the belt after the fact or something like that. And with Bash at the Beach and the Cruise coming up on the horizon in about 6 or 7 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, I'm curious if Jericho will even be the champion by the time I board the Norwegian Pearl Rockin' Rager Cruise. So anyway, Jericho and Moxley is next on the calendar. So overall, like I said, AEW Dynamite had that amazing opening segment, which to me was one of my favorite things I saw all week. But the rest of it, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the Best Friends and Lucha Brothers match. I hated the debut of the Butcher, the Bunny, and the Blade. Omega and Pac was good and solid. MJF and Page was okay. And, the Dustin promo was what it was. And, in the main event, Jericho won. Great. Happy for him and everything. But overall, one of the weaker Dynamite shows, in my opinion. And don't forget, I gave the nod to Dynamite in like the first 6 or 7 weeks they were on the air. I said they had the better show than NXT. And the last couple have fallen a little bit flat. And I didn't think this was a very good Dynamite this week. Sorry. Moving on to NXT, however, and if you can't already tell, I'm giving the nod to NXT. So this is the 3rd week in a row that I've considered NXT to have the better show. It opened up with a big opening segment, the entire locker room coming out and celebrating. Undisputed is coming out, claiming responsibility for everything. You had Ciampa out there. You had Balor out there, all on the mic. Keith Lee even comes out. Lee and Dominik Dijakovic have got a tag team title match against Undisputed Era booked for that night, and Lee says, why don't we just do it right now? So they do. During the scuffle, Keith Lee actually picks up and throws Bobby Fish on the outside of the ring, and he gets knocked out or something. They cut to commercial. When they come back, Roderick Strong, in his street clothes, has replaced Bobby Fish, and joined Kyle O'Reilly to take on Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic. Now, they really had to kind of improvise here, and I got to give big props to all the talent because it's live, pal. This is live TV, and it will be really interesting to see how and when AEW handles a situation like this if it comes up. If they have a situation where someone gets knocked out and they have to call an audible, how the talent adjusts to that. And that's some type of training and shit that I think might be a little bit better at the Performance Center than you're going to get, in the indies, and having AEW talent capable of kind of rolling with the punches like that. So they inserted Roderick. It was a little bit confusing. It was a little sluggish because I think everybody was a little bit freaked out. Oh shit, this is a completely different change of plans. But Roderick and O'Reilly have tagged plenty of times before. They know each other well. They seem to fall right into it. Props to Roderick for just getting in there, probably hadn't really stretched too much or anything in his street clothes and really put on a good match. You know, if you were just tuning in or flipping over, you wouldn't even know that anything happened. According to WWE's injury report, which is kind of like a blend of kayfabe and shoot, it lists him as day-to-day. And I still don't know what the issue was with Fish. Like, was it his knee or was it his head? You know, one of the reports said that he was taken back for more of a precautionary reason. Maybe he was knocked loopy. I'm actually hoping that's what it was. I really hope it's not a knee, or he didn't tweak something or strain something or tear something. If it was an ACL or something major, we'd already know that by now. So the fact that he's day-to-day does sound like it was just precautionary, and hopefully he'll be okay, because Bobby Fish has kind of been injury prone, you know, since he's been there. So I really don't want to see Undisputed Era debut or derailed right now with an injury. So hoping that Bobby Fish is okay. In my favorite spot of the entire week, I think, was near the end of this match. You had Adam Cole coming down to the ring to interfere. Keith Lee is on the outside of the ring, basically waiting for him. And as Adam Cole comes down the ramp, Keith Lee hits him with a pounce that just launches Adam Cole right the fuck off your TV screen. Just gone. And it was so great. It was one of the first weeks on Wednesday that I was flipping back and forth a little bit. Probably won't do that again. I need to watch these shows back to back. But I was flipping back and forth, and I turned over to NXT, to the USA Network, just as, like literally 1 second before Keith Lee hit Adam Cole. So I literally flipped it to USA, and bam, Adam Cole is flying across my TV screen. That was fucking amazing. He sent him right into orbit. I think NASA is planning to bring him back down to Earth in the next 20 to 25 years, probably just crashing him right into the ocean. But damn, that was an amazing spot. It was so amazing that it completely distracted Dominik Dijakovic. He was just looking there like with this holy shit look on his face, and Undisputed is able to hit him with that high-low finisher thing and get the pin and retain the titles. So it was a pretty good match. And like I said, you know, just props to the talent for being able to adjust to that situation. Probably not that easy to do, and especially when you're live. We had, what was next here? Mansoor defeated Shane Thorne. Match was what it was. Showcase for Mansoor. Mostly a squash there. He was flipping and flying all over the place. It's the first time I've seen him in a match outside of Saudi Arabia, I think. Candice LeRae and Dakota Kai were up next. Now, Dakota turned heel last Saturday in epic fashion, and I got to give props to Dakota, to WWE, to NXT for being able to pull off a predictable heel turn in an amazingly beautiful way. Dakota Kai was going to turn heel. We knew that from the minute she was bumped out of the War Games team. And then on War Games, Mia Yim is suddenly attacked backstage. Nobody sees who does it. And Dakota Kai just happens to be standing right there. And then Rhea Ripley's like, okay, you're back on the team. Well, no shit she's going to fucking turn. No shit she's the one that attacked Mia Yim. She's behind it. Y'all are in trouble when you get into that match and she goes full Kurt Hennig 1997 on your ass and turns on you right in the middle of the match and maybe even guillotines someone's head in the ring door. But they did it a completely different way. They have everybody there in the pens. They're being released one at a time. Last two women on in the holding cage for the baby faces are Tegan Nox and Dakota. Timer goes off. It's Dakota's turn to come. She starts walking to the ring, stops in her tracks, turns around, and bam, nails Tegan Nox inside the cage, starts stomping the shit out of her, rips her knee brace off, beats her with it, pulls her leg outside of the cage, and starts slamming the door. You know, this all happened, you know, with the referees like breaking it up and Dakota Kai going away and then coming back for more, all that sort of stuff. Vicious attack on Tegan Nox. The crowd is chanting holy shit. It was a great way to turn her because now she's not in the ring turning. She's leaving the team high and dry. Not only is she not going to be in the match, but she's eliminated the other partner, which now makes it 4-on-2, which put Rhea Ripley in prime position to win the match and look strong as fuck. But the heel turn was great. I loved it. Now, like I said, we saw it coming, but that is when a wrestling company deserves credit, you know, when you can pull off something that's predictable and still make it great. It happens every now and then, and this was amazing. And on NXT, she was going to face Candice LeRae one-on-one, and she already has a new theme song, new kind of attitude. She's still wearing the bright, colorful outfits, but she definitely has like a new attitude, and I think she's pulling off the heel turn great. I like this evil Dakota Kai. her facial expressions, her body language, her nastiness in the ring. She busted up Candice LeRae's mouth a little bit in this as well. Turned out to have a DQ finish because I guess they didn't want to defeat or beat Candice LeRae right now, and you're not going to beat Dakota right after she turns heel. So she grabs the knee brace, hits Candice with it. She gets DQ'd. And Dakota continues the attack after the match before Rhea Ripley finally comes out and makes the save. So Dakota's transition into a heel now seems to be complete. She might still change up the outfit a little bit because she is pretty colorful. She's got the leather jacket, which I think looks really good on her. And I just wasn't sure. When you watch someone like her as a babyface, I really had a hard time picturing her as a heel. But now that I see her as a heel, I think she's going to be fantastic. So props to Dakota Kai. I like this new Dakota, and I'm hoping she just starts just ripping women apart. Good luck to Dakota going forward. Another great match as well on NXT. Lio Rush defeated Akira Tozawa in just a fantastic match. Tozawa is so good. Lio won with 2 final hour frog splashes, and he's also had some matches recently with Angel Garza. Akira Tozawa here was representing Raw, came out with a Raw t-shirt and everything. Really good match, and just another check mark, for NXT this week, because that match was tough to top. You had Xia Li defeating Vanessa Bourne. Now, Vanessa, I guess, was getting this match because she's trying to get revenge for her friend Aaliyah, who was busted up in the face. And I said when that match happened a couple of weeks ago that it looked like a work to me, because when the training guys came out there with a towel, I thought the towel was already pre-soaked with the red blood. And then she took like the backstage photo. And I had my doubts if that was an actual busted nose, especially when you watch the replay and Xia Li didn't come anywhere near her face. But anyway, she made pretty quick work of... what's her name? Vanessa Bourne. And after the match, she was attacked by Baszler and company. Ripley then came out, and the two traded shots on the mic. So you basically had Baszler invading the ending of that match. Ripley coming out there and backing off Baszler. The two get on the mic a little bit, and Baszler backs off. Ripley even says, like, why don't we get in the ring right now and do it right now? And Baszler wants nothing to do with her. So I'm really excited for Ripley and Baszler. You guys are going to have to tell me. I want to say it's been at least since July or August that I've been saying Ripley's going to be the girl. All these victories, all these title retaining matches that Shayna Baszler has. Every time people think she's going to lose, Bianca Belair is going to beat her. Candice is going to beat her. She wins. She wins. She wins. She needs to run into a badass, and right now there's not a better badass on that entire fucking roster for her to run into than Rhea Ripley. She was put over strong at War Games. She was put over strong at Survivor Series. Ripley is the girl. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen down the line at TakeOver during Royal Rumble weekend, or if they try to pull it off before then, maybe even on TV, just to spark a big rating. I don't know. But I think going into next year, you could essentially have Ripley winning the title from Baszler, and then maybe Baszler winning the Rumble, because they've teased Baszler and Becky. Baszler got the big victory too, don't forget, tapping out Bayley at Survivor Series. So that could be a fun WrestleMania match for the two of them. So that's what I'm hoping for, is that Baszler not only drops the belt to Ripley, but she moves on to great things when it's over on the main roster. And also, as it relates to Rhea Ripley, when she gets called up, they've planted a lot of seeds for her too. She had that little brief encounter with Becky Lynch and everything. So I think they're doing a lot of things right in terms of the women's division right now. They are in prime position to make two big stars out of these girls if they don't screw it up. They can not only have Baszler pass the title to Ripley, but they can make Baszler strong and huge debut on the roster at the Royal Rumble if you choose to have her win it. That could be amazing stuff. So anyway, I got high hopes for the girls. Tommaso Ciampa and Finn Balor main evented NXT this week, and another really good match. Now, they didn't go full takeover style for this match, which I think if these two guys had a main event on a takeover, the match would be a completely different match, but still really good because just the talent there. Oh my God. Adam Cole shows up near the end. He drops the belt in the ring, and Finn Balor accidentally suplexes Tommaso Ciampa on the belt, which leads Adam Cole to kick Tommaso Ciampa when he's laying on the middle rope, and then Balor hits his big DDT finisher for the win. After the match, Balor and Cole are kind of standing over Ciampa's body, And Adam Cole catches a Pele kick right in his face. Balor letting him know that, yeah, you might have helped me win, but you're no friend of mine. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, is setting the table for a triple threat, right? I'm assuming we're going to get that Balor, Ciampa, and Cole for the title at some point. That would be a fun TV match too. I'd almost prefer them not wait until a takeover and just do it on TV. They are attempting to do some Sunday takeovers. I think the NXT UK takeover, the Worlds Collide show, is going to be on a Sunday, early January. The February takeover special is also going to be on a Sunday for NXT, but the regular takeover for Royal Rumble weekend will remain on Saturday. So I did notice that. And also, best of luck to referee Jessica Carr. It was her final night in NXT. She refereed the main event. After the main event, you can catch the video on the WWE Network. Tommaso Ciampa gets on the mic and says, tonight was the last night for one of our biggest members and biggest team players here in NXT, and wished Jessica well. Told the fans to show her some love. She got on the mic and cut a promo, said goodbye to everybody, and just a really nice, thing for them to do to kind of show that referee some love. AEW has a very popular female referee as well, with Aubrey, and she even tweeted out and congratulated Jessica on her promotion. She's going to be moving up to the SmackDown roster effective immediately, and we should start seeing her on TV probably next week, unless we saw her last night. I didn't even notice if we saw her last night or not. So congrats to Jessica Carr, and we're all happy for you. SmackDown last night, oh God. Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin opened up with 10 minutes of the worst fucking dialogue I've ever heard. So clearly we're going to get Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin continuing here. They're probably going to work at TLC. The whole thing leads to a Bobby Roode and Roman Reigns match. With Roman winning, despite the fact that Ziggler and Corbin are at ringside. Roman wins anyway. At the end, he even spears Bobby Roode through the... who does he spear? Yeah, he spears Bobby Roode through the barricade because Bobby Roode attempted to attack him after the match, and he grabbed Baron Corbin's scepter and was going to smash Roman's head on the chair. Said, you're going to be home for the holidays. Your family's going to see you early because I'm about to put you there. And Roman moves. He smacks the chair, and then Roman just destroys him after the match, even putting him through a table, I think, as well. Or he threw the table on him, something like that. Corbin looks on during all this, wants nothing to do with it, and it was just a, hey, look how big and bad the big dog is segment. So that was what it was. Ali defeated Drew Gulak in a one-on-one match, nothing to say there. Firefly Funhouse segment. We had like 3 of these. Firefly Funhouse segment opens with Bray Wyatt. Was it the first one or the second one? When did they do the Muscle Man dance? Let me look at my notes here, because that came on one of them as well. I think that was on the second one. The first one was just the belt. So Bray Wyatt has the belt, and he's like, I got a new toy. It's only fitting that he should have a new toy as well. And then the lights kind of flicker, and it shows Bray Wyatt holding basically like a big leather strap in the shape of a wrestling belt with his face mask on it. So we're wondering, is that the new face of the Funhouse that he's talking about? And there's your new belt. And I even said that. You guys have to go back, and it was one of those episodes, 10 or 11, whenever they debuted the blue Universal title. I even said, I'm like, when you think about it, for all the fans that were pissed off that we just got some boring new blue belt, it's really the way it should have been, because you already you move the belt from Raw to SmackDown. Had you not changed the belt and left the belt on Raw, then Bray Wyatt would have debuted this new custom title right away. But with it switching brands, first you had to get it to blue, get the fans used to the blue, and then move on to your custom title. And it looks like that's what they've done here, and all the fans that were impatient and demanded it right away, it's like they had to do blue first and then the custom. So in the span of just a few weeks here, since Hell in the Cell, Bray Wyatt has had 3 different championship belts. That's pretty crazy. And the new belt looks pretty basic. It's just a leather strap with his face on it. No gold, no side plates, no nothing. Just bland and basic. So it looks like when the Funhouse is there, Bray Wyatt's going to have the blue belt. When the Fiend wrestles, he's going to be carrying the custom belt. Next up, we got a Sasha and Bayley promo. They cut a promo exactly like Seth's, placing blame on everybody else, loaded with excuses. Lacey Evans then comes out, says some more scripted bullshit, winds up punching Sasha Banks in the face, and that was the end of that stupid segment. Daniel Bryan, we cut backstage to him. He's trying to decide if he wants to accept Bray Wyatt's offer to play again, and he's like soul searching. He's getting pep talks from The Miz of all people. Even The Miz shows up to say, look, Brian, I know we're not friends. We don't like each other, but, SmackDown needs you, and kind of like gives him a little pat on the back, like kind of like an attaboy, come on, make the right decision here type of thing. We don't want to lose you. And I kind of like that. I think one day maybe The Miz and Daniel Bryan should patch things up. I don't know. It might be fun to see them together. We had a Sheamus vignette. Sheamus is back, sporting the old hairdo. Very cool to see him return. He's going to be showing up, I guess, any week now. This is a whole backstage deal or a pre-tape. And he basically calls everybody on the main roster a bunch of punks, and he's coming looking for some competition. Welcome back, Sheamus. We've all been really worried about you with your recent injuries and things like that. So glad to see him back sporting that old babyface hairdo. We had Nikki Cross. Speaking of returns, Nikki Cross took on Sonya Deville. She won the match. She was attacked by Mandy Rose and Sonya after they're wearing her out, and that's when Alexa Bliss makes her return. She's been on the shelf as well. Haven't seen her in a while. She comes back in the ring, cleans house, and Alexa Bliss is now back reunited with Nikki Cross, and the two of them are back to being a babyface team, I suppose. We also had Elias returning. He's backstage with Dana Brooke, who's been flirting with Batista a lot on social media. Not sure if any of you have caught that recently. That's fucking hilarious. I hope that continues, and I hope I continue to watch these two, have no clue how DMs actually work, and court their relationship right here in front of the world. Pretty funny. She's getting hit on by Drake Maverick. Elias shows up to kind of save the day, which kind of might imply a babyface turn by Elias. I think the last time we saw him, he was a heel. So welcome back, Elias. He's going to be on SmackDown, and hopefully it won't suck and it won't be the same old for Elias. The New Day issued an open challenge for the tag team titles, which was accepted by Nakamura and Cesaro. New Day retained there. Not much to say other than Sami Zayn just doing an exceptional job being the manager for those two guys. And the main event segment was Daniel Bryan's big decision. He comes out to the ring, and he's done a lot of soul searching throughout the night. Should he do this? Should he put himself in this danger of challenging Bray Wyatt for the title again? He says yes. We even get yes chants, so that's going to be the match at TLC. Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend, most likely. And right after he says yes, the lights go out. We get, I think the Funhouse comes back on, because we got a Funhouse earlier with a whole new Muscle Man dance, which was fucking crazy. Did I mention that a minute ago? The entire Muscle Man dance, which, my God, I don't even know what to think about that stuff. But it was super entertaining. And now the Funhouse pops back up, and Bray Wyatt is on the Tron, but then he also appears behind him. Funhouse goes off, lights go out. Bray Wyatt cuts a hole in the ring. Second time in 3 days that a wrestler has cut a hole in the ring. Pops out, grabs Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is trying to fight this. He's punching, he's kicking, trying to avoid being sucked down into the hole. Bray Wyatt sucks him down, and then you see Bray Wyatt kind of standing out of the hole, and he's going like this with his hands, and he's ripping out Daniel Bryan's hair, which is a phenomenon. I mean, he's not really doing it, but this is a very cool visual to see him just tearing out Daniel Bryan's hair. Could be his beard, could be his head. We don't know. Shout out to, I think, Austin, who super chatted earlier, asking about a possible puppet. Maybe Bray Wyatt is going to debut a puppet made out of Daniel Bryan's hair. That's possible. And I guess Daniel Bryan is going to be sporting a new look starting next week, maybe with what you see on the screen here, with more of the kind of the American Dragon that he was before. And maybe he'll go full-blown Stone Cold like me. Who knows? Or maybe his beard will just be pulled out. I don't know. But very kind of cool segment there showing how vicious Bray Wyatt is. And who knows? He might wind up making a puppet out of that hair. And if we still get some sort of a new face debut, which he did promise to us 3 times on SmackDown and we never got, unless he was talking about the belt, unless he was talking about possibly it being somebody else under the mask who pulled Daniel Bryan out. And of course, all the fans are insistent that Liv Morgan needs to be a part of Bray Wyatt's camp. Well, we'll just wait and see. But it feels like WWE didn't really deliver on their promise there, and I didn't really enjoy SmackDown. So by far, Raw and NXT were the 2 best shows of the week. I thought Raw and NXT were both better than Dynamite. So I'd go NXT. Hell, I might go Raw 1. No, I'll go NXT 1. NXT the best show, Raw 2, AEW 3, SmackDown 4 this week. And like I said, no ratings are out yet due to the holidays. I guess we'll get that on Monday. Quick TLC preview right here. I'm guessing we're going to get Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan, Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens, either AJ Styles versus Randy Orton, or an AJ Styles and Rey Mysterio rematch. And other than that, I'm not sure. I don't know when they're going to want to pull the trigger on AOP and the tag team titles or anything like that, but I think that'll be your big 4 matches, at least right now, penciled in for TLC. So I am sorry for talking really fast there, but as usual, whenever I only have 90 minutes to do this podcast, I always find myself rushing at the end. I got to get out of here and get to work. But before I do, let me make sure there's no other major super chats to answer here. I don't think I missed any. No, I did not. Oh, I like that idea, Andrew Park. Bring Daniel Bryan back in a mask. Maybe Daniel Bryan can come back sporting a Mankind mask. And I'll tell you what, there was a promo that he did not long ago when he was environmental Daniel Bryan that was exactly like Mick Foley. It was exactly like a Cactus Jack, just the way he was doing with his hands, and he was kind of talking out of the side like that. Very Cactus Jacky. And I can't remember where I saw that, but it was on Smackdown one week. And Daniel Bryan, man, if he came out there and tried to out crazy Bray Wyatt, that could be fun. Put that fucker in a white shirt and a tie and a Mankind mask. Hell yeah, give me some of that. Maybe, but I'd be willing to bet that Sam is right. It might be the Flying Goat making a return to TV starting next week. So anyway, thank you for following along this week. I had a lot of fun as usual. Don't forget, tune in this coming Monday, immediately following Monday Night Raw. I'm going to go with a live Monday Night Raw review rather than a watch along. Try that for the month of December, see how I like it and see how it goes. And like I said, stay tuned to the channel this month because there's going to be a lot going on all throughout the month of December. And if you want to listen to this in audio form, the audio will be up on my website and on the podcast sites later on tonight around midnight West Coast time. So check that out if you would like to listen to this shit in your car. You guys have an excellent rest of your day and enjoy what's left of your holiday weekend. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving here. Good luck heading back to work on Monday, and have a great holiday season. Y'all be good. Peace.